thing that surprised me least about the election was the sharp red shift in these big cities. Because if you just talk to anybody who lives in them, they are furious. And this idea that like, oh no, the economy is actually good or crime is actually down. This
Yeah, I think one of the funniest aspects is like, yeah, I wonder why the cities are experiencing a red shift. Blue cities, especially under blue leadership, especially. Maybe it has something to do with the housing market. Maybe it has something to do with the affordability crisis making people go crazy. And on top of that, people getting priced out of the housing market is creating more homeless people, which many people is seeing as a reflection of crime rising dramatically, even if it's actually not. I don't know. Probably not. It's probably because crime is actually out of control. People are being murdered on the streets every single day, nonstop. How does voting red fix that? What do you mean? Voting red? How many times have I talked about this? People don't vote Republican because they're like, oh, these guys are making reasonable policy prescriptions to the problems. They're just addressing the anger and very, very clearly looking at the anger that people have and then redirecting it to whatever the notion is in their hearts. Like being like, yeah, you're mad because the cops are trying to do their best jobs. But honestly, despite the fact that they're getting $7 trillion every day to do the job possible, it's actually not the police that's at fault here. Okay, you know who's at fault? You, the wokes who are making the police upset, the wokes who are saying that cops are doing a bad job. Don't say that cops are doing a bad job. Don't ever say that. How dare you say that? Cops are just doing their best job. It's the woke progressive DAs backed by George Soros that's causing cops to not be able to do their jobs. It's like, when have they done a good job? They don't do a good job. I want them to do a good job. Also, there's plenty of people who are just simply not voting, okay? There's plenty of people who are simply not voting. That's the other part. How do you argue against the idea that most people seem to jump to when you say that all the evidence shows crime is down, but when they say, well, most people don't report it? Yeah, that's also ridiculous because even the lack of reporting on crimes, okay, that people are experiencing is a combination of two reasons. One, cops don't do their jobs, and it's very frustrating. And I always say this. I'm not saying cops immediately, we need to put every cop in jail, okay? Abolish the police. I'm not saying that at all. I am simply saying, do your job. We need accountability for police. We need to greatly, just completely change the policing structure in this country, okay? Do your job. That's number one. Number two, okay? There is also a separate, there are also separate studies conducted on the lack of reporting, okay? The attitude that people have about crime around them, and saying that they have been victim to a crime that they haven't reported. Like there is a specific survey for this as well. And the numbers have not increased all that dramatically in comparison to prior years in terms of people who report that they have not reported a crime. Anyway.
It's all just Fox News. Like, shut the up with that.
Congratulations, everyone. Libs have caught on to something that we figured out 2 years ago. Crime is a problem. And if you just tell people, voters specifically, that it's not a problem, and it was way worse in the 90s, so you shouldn't be complaining, there will be backlash. There will be blood, okay? And so here we are. Ezra Klein was on Pod Save America to reflect on the disastrous election cycle that we just experienced for the Democratic Party. And he touched on how poorly...
Like, that's the funniest part is you just look at red cities and red states, right? Look at red states. They think there's less crime in red states. There's literally more crime in red states than blue states. What are we talking about? People unironically think that California has a higher crime rate than like Oklahoma. It's just not true. Okay? Don't say wrong. There's more crime per capita than in Oklahoma than there is in California. It's just what are you talking about? This is objectively, you're wrong. You're wrong. What the And it's not because of like no reporting on the matter either. People have tried to figure out exactly where this attitude is coming from. People have been like, where is this coming from? Why do people think there's so much crime happening? The media has done reporting on this process. Okay, yeah, National Crime Victim Survey crime data. This is the most comprehensive survey conducted on whether or not people are actually reporting the crimes that they're experiencing. Okay. And the rate has remained stable in terms of like, crime victimization rate has remained stable, and it has dropped year over year. In terms of people not reporting the victimizations that they are experiencing, there isn't a significant increase either. Is this survey legit? This is the only way that you can. This, alongside the FBI crime data, is the most comprehensive way, at least right now, the most comprehensive way that we can figure out if there is like a ton of crime happening. Okay, California is a. Let's be real, Hasan. No, it's not. It's not. It's not a at all. And all of the reasons why California has a lot of issues is because of the awful dog policies of the likes of Gavin fucking Newsom and the neoliberal Democratic Party that has basically used the blue headquarters that they have here in California and in New York State as a cumsock. Okay, this is their hunting ground. The way that they operate here is basically like how they want to ruin the rest of the country. It sucks. California is a beautiful state. California in and of itself is like by itself, California has one of the largest economies on the planet, dude. What are we talking about? Yeah. Like when you look at the crime rate, state by state, California's crime rate is still going to be lower than a lot of these red states. Okay? Like look, Oklahoma's crime rate is higher. Highest is District of Columbia, then New Mexico, Louisiana, Colorado, South Carolina, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Washington State, Tennessee, Oregano, Missouri, Alaska, Utah, Hawaii, Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, Kansas, Alabama, and then California. And part of the reason why is because some of these blue states have better gun control, for example. That's it. If guns are not easily accessible and readily available for people to walk into a Walmart, okay, then guess what? There's going to be less gun violence. That's it. It's like that simple, okay? It's like that. Even with population density, the fact that, which is, one of the higher markers of crime, if you have poor people slammed next to people that have, more wealth, there's going to be more crimes. Okay. Population density increases the likelihood of crime. And even then, these states that have higher population densities, blue states specifically, because higher population density also means more likely that you're going to be blue. Okay. You're going to vote Democrat. And even then, with the exception of DC, a lot of these states that have higher population densities, like big cities, for example, where people are living next to one another, have lower crime rates all around. Where the hell is Unc? He's going to be coming later. He's going to be coming in half an hour. Anyway, Jose did a video on this, and I kind of want to watch it. I kind of want to see what Jose's video looks like. But
blue cities have been run by progressive leaders. Got to keep it real. And so here's more of his argument. Here's more of his revelations, and then we'll break it down further.
The sense of disorder, right?
Illinois has the strictest gun law. You're wrong. That's really interesting that you say that, because Illinois still has a lower gun violence rate per capita than not the national average, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be lower than the national average. And I wonder why Illinois still has a lot of gun violence. Perhaps it's because it's slammed to the ass cheeks of states that you can cross over the state boundary with ease, where there are no gun laws. Illinois is not a island, okay? There's no border control between Illinois and the neighboring states. You can just go to a neighboring state, get a gun from the Walmart, and bring it back into Illinois and sell it. Brickhead, you thought you had a fantastic revelation. Not only are you factually wrong, but also on top of that, not only are you wrong, okay? Yeah, here it is. Illinois' death rate is still lower than states with states with less gun control. Illinois' gun violence rates are still lower than red states. America's gun violence is so bad America's gun culture is so violent and so bad. It's literally up neighboring nations, dude. Virtually all of the guns in Mexico and in Canada come from America. Maybe not as much in Canada, but definitely in Mexico. It's like 70% of the guns apprehended by cartels is literally American guns. Okay? What the Anyway, why is New Mexico the highest, or so high? It is because, yeah, ATF trace data found that less than half the guns collected in Chicago crimes were bought in Illinois. Yeah. It is because it does not have a lot of gun control. It has no gun control, as a matter of fact. I've shot a ghost gun that was made in the state of New Mexico. Okay? I've shot it. Like an AR-15 that was handmade with no serial number. A ghost gun. Back when I used to do a lot of gun reporting, like, I need to learn this. Okay? I need to learn what the f is going on. It's legal in the state of New Mexico I mean, it's legal in many states to make a ghost gun, technically, unfortunately. New Mexico does not have a lot of gun control, okay? That's what it is. Less gun control, more gun violence. It's that simple, okay? Like, you rarely ever have this obvious of a problem, okay? Death rate. This is the firearm mortality, okay? This factors in suicide by gun. It factors in accidental, misfirings, everything, okay? It is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, all of that, okay? With a lethal firearm. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California. Wait, what? The death rates are not. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Here it is. Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico, Alabama, Missouri, Montana, Alaska, Arkansas, D.C., South Carolina, Tennessee, Wyoming, Arizona, Oklahoma, Georgia, Nevada, Kentucky, Indiana, Colorado, Idaho, Kansas, North Carolina, North Dakota, West Virginia, South Dakota, Ohio, Texas. And then you get to Michigan. With the exception of D.C., look at this. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? This is part of the reason why I am... No, Anne? Anne? What is happening? I can't even hear myself. I can't even hear myself think. Anyway, as an outsider, what the f is wrong with DC? I don't know. We'll get to it. New Mexico is not red. New Mexico has no gun control measures. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a blue state or a red state. I'm talking about gun control measures. When there's less gun control, there's more gun violence. That's how it works. Summary of New Mexico gun laws. No summary of New Mexico gun laws. Castle Doctrine, no net laws, no legislation, right to carry, confidentiality provisions enacted, right to carry in restaurants, partial ban. Right to carry laws shall issue, right to carry reciprocity and recognition, conditional recognition, right to keep and bear arms, state constitutional provisions with provisions. Anyway, Piers Morgan, Norm Finkelstein, I don't care, man. You guys got to stop coming in here to be like, yo, you got to watch this latest Piers Morgan interview. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. I would much rather pour through the crime rate victimization data, okay? The crime victimization data on Thanksgiving morning before getting prepared to talk to Unc than anything else, okay? Illinois is an island. Look at the map. I'm literally an homosexual in New Mexico. Our gun lobby is absolutely insane, even in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Yeah, most Americans are wrong about crime. This is like a comprehensive video on the issue. There are surveys that ask people about crime in the area. People say crime is not increasing in their neighborhood, but somewhere else, be it a different neighborhood or a different state, they imagine crime happening elsewhere while not experiencing it themselves. Exactly. Now, this is a little bit different in blue states, okay? And in big blue cities. A lot of the woke progressives in big blue cities are very pissed off. They're very pissed off about the homelessness. They see homelessness and they're like, that's crime. Okay? That's it. They see trash. They're like, that's crime. They see homelessness. That's crime. I have a funny story for you. I found my old Israel flag from my college days and I told my mom I was going to throw it out if she didn't want it. She said she wanted it and told me to put it down. So I put it on the floor and stomped on it. She said, it's disrespectful to do that to a flag. I said, well, what if it was the Nazi Germany flag? Gagged her completely. Dude, okay, you're You're gonna give your mom a heart attack on Thanksgiving. That's crazy. Why does homeless equal crime? Well, one, because they also have made it a crime to be homeless, and two, people see homeless people and they go, oh, this is like crime. This is crime happening everywhere. Okay. That's the feeling that people have. They don't think about homeless people as like people suffering that need help. Okay. They see them as like drug addicts who are mentally ill, who are taking a shit on the side of the road. And in some instances, they are doing that, but we've lost our humanity in the way that we analyze these people that have been over by society. Okay. We just don't see them as human. We see them as like gross, disgusting, and we see them as like a nuisance at best. I'm not saying like, you know, hug and kiss every homeless person that you see, but like the government is supposed to be helping these people. Okay. I'm Jewish, by the way. Please let the Diddy Jeers know that. Oh yeah. Good luck. They're going to clip it anyway. Anyway, let's do the I can't wait to watch the Will Tennyson video, but I want to watch this Jose video.
Yes, a viral video made the rounds of a group of armed men breaking into an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. It was claimed that these men were a part of the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela. Right-wing media in particular used this story to emphasize the danger of immigration from the southern border, as Aurora had recently seen an increase in migrants attempting to enter the United States from the south, particularly from the country of Venezuela. And now this video was being used to popularize this narrative that criminal migrants were taking over apartment complexes and terrorizing the residents. This was very quickly exploited by Donald Trump during his campaign when he would claim that Aurora had been taken over by violent gangs.
We settled beautifully into your community to prey upon innocent American citizens. That's what they're doing.
The real story isn't quite so sensational, but that's to be expected when it comes to right-wing media. Vilifying immigrants is a time-honored tradition in that space. What was more disappointing to me was watching some media outlets, claiming to be on the left, repeating this story without important additional context, and thereby missing an important element of this story. I imagine I have some overlap in viewers with this channel, so here's a little disclaimer before we dive in. TYT has been getting a lot of smoke from the left recently for a variety of takes, particularly when it comes to street-level crime. While it would be interesting to go over all of those and determine what sort of conservative streak may or may not be running through that network, this video isn't really about that. I wanted to focus on this story specifically because, as was seen a month later, they released a second video doubling down on their original commentary and once again carrying water for what I would ultimately learn was a cynical PR campaign. Also, as a note before we begin, since this story has had numerous developments since with lots of contradictory information coming out, I wanted to be careful to cite sources that would have been publicly available before this video was originally published on the main TYT channel. I'll be touching very briefly on those additional developments at the end of this video, but for now, I really want to focus on the video titled, Venezuelan Gang Takes Over an Apartment Complex, or Did They? Which did a terrible job of...
This is something that me and Marat both love, paying attention to, tracking Cenk's political journey throughout the last couple of years. So
I don't hate on Cenk anywhere near as much as Hasan does. I just want to make that abundantly clear.
No, I don't. First of all,
I want to make it abundantly clear.
That's Unc. I love Unc.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Look, the uncle-nephew bond, regardless of political disagreements, is stronger than anything else. Okay, blood is thicker than water. Okay, never forget. Never forget. Marat actually, unfortunately, shaved his beard, and I'm really mad.
Bro, I got a haircut last night, and then this morning I looked like one of those hudges that have like this slick hair and like the untamed beard.
Yeah, you looked sick. Your beard looked amazing. No,
we're not doing
His
this.
beard was like this, chat.
I literally shaved it like an hour ago.
I'm so sad that you shaved.
I mean, it's still long.
He's so skinny, chat. He's like lost too much weight. He's like catching up to me actually in weight loss.
We're about what, 8 pounds apart right now?
Yeah, he's like 230 something. He needs to put on some muscle mass though. You know what I mean? Beard police. We really are a Salafist community. I know. I told him to invoke the holy principles of Islam. You know, the important principles of Islam is halal to have a good strong beard, and it's haram to shave it. But he did it anyway. He wouldn't listen to me, and he did it.
Okay.
Stop insulting all the men in your life. What? Dude, look at this. Look at how insane Twitch streaming is. Where like someone can come in here and be like, I am going to micromanage parasocially the relationship that you have with some of the closest individuals in your life.
Wait, are they talking about Cenk or are you talking about me?
I meant that as a joke, lol. Okay. I thought you were being serious. All right, let's
describing the story. This video was published on September 5th, 2024.
You're watching footage from last August featuring members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua breaking into an apartment unit in Aurora, Colorado.
10 seconds in, and we
crazy.
already have a noteworthy mistake. The men in this video, at the time of this video's upload, had not been identified. Although they would be identified a few weeks later, the police were reluctant to assign any kind of gang affiliation to them, never mind saying they were part of Tren de Aragua. Considering how this story is being used to fuel anti-immigrant rhetoric, claiming these men to be migrants, specifically criminal ones in a gang, before they have actually been identified,
I mean, they
seems
seem
to
pretty
me
organized,
irresponsible.
So like, that's not that
They seem
unreasonable.
organized, and it's like, yeah, I can't believe that there's gang activity in an incredibly low-income neighborhood. Of course there's criminal gang activity in a low-income neighborhood. The idea that this is a mass criminal enterprise that has overtaken specifically this one singular slumlord's properties is nutty.
I like that somebody said a group of friends can be organized too.
Yeah.
It's very wholesome of you,
Put
Chad.
the issue of gangs in Aurora into a broader context. An article in the Denver Post using information from the police detailed at least 36 different gangs in Aurora, totaling 1,355 members.
It's crazy.
And based on all the articles I've read, the highest estimate I've seen for Tren de Aragua gang members in Aurora was about 15 to 20 people. But whether or not there's gang violence in Aurora isn't really the problem I have with this video. There are gangs in every big city, and some of them may include immigrants. The real problem is that there is a much deeper context that's not really being acknowledged here.
This incident has sparked a big debate and I believe some gaslighting about whether or not there is a problem with Venezuelan migrant gangs basically taking over apartment buildings or causing violent crimes at these apartment buildings.
This is where the video really starts to go off the rails. Gang violence and a gang takeover of an entire building are very different propositions. And that latter one has some important history behind it within this story. But there's another one in the video that does a better job demonstrating of what I think needs to be pushed back against in this video.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, the property owner is a bad guy. That doesn't prove anything. The property owners could be bad guys that don't take care of the rodents and the bed bugs, etc. And a Venezuelan gang might have taken over the apartments. Those two facts are not at all logically connected.
To say that reveals a complete lack of knowledge about the origin of this story.
Dude, I
But
saw
to
that
really
on
understand
TV.
where this story came from and why it became such high-profile news, we have to go back a little bit before this video made an appearance. Before I start the story, I do have to establish who the players are in all of this. The gang takeover narrative affects 3 different complexes that have supposedly been taken over. The first one, where that infamous video was captured, is the Edge at Lowry. The Edge at Lowry is a group of buildings, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to refer to the collective group of buildings as the Edge at Lowry. The second location is Whispering Pines, and the third is Aspen Grove, which is more commonly called Fitzsimmons Place. As you might have noticed on the map, these complexes are pretty far from one another, each several kilometers away. The fact that they're so distant raises an interesting question as to why these 3 in particular have supposedly been taken over. They aren't the only apartment buildings in this neighborhood, after all. One common thread is all 3 of these complexes are owned by a guy named Zev Baumgarten. These properties would be managed by a company called CBZ Management, which is also owned by Baumgarten. After they were purchased in the intervening years, these properties would rack up dozens of complaints that were filed with the city. It also received a number of code violations. You can read some of these historic complaints online pretty readily if you look at the Better Business.
Yeah, it's just how wonderful that this slumlord that was so bad that even like the libertarian state of Colorado had decided that there's like a genuine problem with the
Bureau's website for CBC
Chunk
Management.
Weigert gets here.
The state of
Don't
disrepair and disregard for properties seems to be pretty common
Salam
for any
alaikum.
building managed by this company. Complaints include broken appliances, bug and rodent infestations, and questionable charges costing tenants hundreds and, in some cases, thousands of dollars. It presents the impression that these properties were managed with minimal to no services. These issues persisted for years, well before the arrival of a large number of migrants in December of 2022. That arrival, by the way, was part of Texas Governor Greg Abbott's project to bus various people who had crossed the border to other states. The total number of newcomers to the Denver area was just under 43,000 as of October of 2024, and it's estimated that half of these people have relocated to other parts of the country, either for better opportunities or to be with family members. These people are often labeled as Venezuelan. This isn't entirely accurate. Venezuelans make up just over a third of this population. The next most common group are Colombians and Mexicans, but being the largest demographic within the group, typically they are just stereotyped as Venezuelans. As the code violations and tenant complaints piled up, eventually the city of Aurora decided to step in regarding these 3 properties. They planned to first shut down Fitzsimmons Place in mid-August, and then Whispering Pines and the Edge at Lowry in the following weeks. Baumgarten was facing 81 charges and was scheduled to appear for a trial on August 27th, and then again on September 5th for another 24 charges related to vehicles. All of these were for just one of the buildings, Fitzsimmons Place. With the building set to be closed by the city in 2 weeks, Baumgarten began to fight back by claiming in the media that the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua had taken over his properties and were preventing his team from performing regular maintenance at the building. This is where the gang narrative takeover first entered the media cycle. And to highlight just how that entered the media cycle, we can look at an article from the outlet Westword, which referenced an August 5th statement regarding the gang takeover from CBZ Management that came through a Florida-based PR firm, Red Banyan. A quick look at the PR company shows us that they specialize in helping repair the reputation of people and businesses damaged by scandals, and they hype up their ability to place stories within the media. It does seem a bit strange that the property owner was complaining about not being able to afford to make repairs, but he somehow had all this money to hire a PR firm. As I pointed out earlier, these apartments were a complete mess before the arrival of any of these migrants, and the timing of these claims really gives the game away. If a Venezuelan gang was somehow preventing these apartments from receiving regular maintenance, it's a wonder that they were able to do this for years before any Venezuelan migration wave came in at all. As an interesting point of comparison, Baumgarten owns several other buildings in Denver, buildings, you won't be shocked to learn, that also have numerous health and safety violations. One of the residents of one of the Denver properties discussed the poor living conditions, saying, "What's going on in Aurora, that's essentially what's happening to their properties in Denver. It just hasn't gotten the same attention." By the way, this comment does come from a mid-September article, so I won't blame QIT for not being aware of something that hadn't been published yet. Though all the other details I've shared so far were readily available throughout articles published in August. One of the major differences between the 3 buildings in Aurora and the other buildings in Denver, all in similar states of disrepair, was that in Denver, the city had not stepped in to shut these buildings down.
Dude, am I ready